She said it so softly I almost didn't hear her over the sound of the rain. The hospital corridor smelled of antiseptic and heartbreak, and the fluorescent lights flickered like they were tired of witnessing too many goodbyes. She stood there, thinner than I remembered, her hands trembling at her sides, her eyes holding the kind of fear that only comes when someone has been strong for far too long. And then she whispered, "Can you give me a hug?" In that moment, time didn't just slow down, it unraveled. Before I tell you what happened next, take a second to breathe. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, in love that doesn't fade even when people do, then please like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us that sometimes, all it takes to save a heart, is a hug. I answered her without hesitation, my voice steadier than my heart felt. "My arms have always been open for you. They had been open years ago when she first broke. They had been open when she pushed me away. And they were open now, even after everything." Her name was Alina, and once upon a time, she was the strongest person I knew. She used to laugh loudly, the kind of laugh that turned heads and made strangers smile. She dreamed fearlessly. She loved deeply. And she trusted recklessly. That last part was what nearly destroyed her. We met in college, both too stubborn to admit we were lonely. She was studying architecture, determined to build things that would outlive her. I was studying literature, hoping words would somehow make sense of the chaos in my own home. My father had left when I was 12, leaving behind silence and unpaid bills. My mother worked herself sick trying to keep us afloat. I grew up believing love was temporary, that people always leave, that it was safer not to need anyone. Alina challenged that belief without even trying. She needed people. She believed in them. She believed in me. But life doesn't always reward belief. In her final year of college, Alina fell in love with a man who promised her forever. He was charming, confident, ambitious. He told her she was different, that she inspired him, that he would never hurt her. And she believed him. I watched from the sidelines, pretending I was just her friend, swallowing feelings I never had the courage to confess. At first, he isolated her slowly. He criticized her friends. He questioned her loyalty. He made her feel guilty for spending time with anyone but him. By the time she realized what was happening, she had already shrunk herself to fit inside his insecurities. The girl who once laughed loudly started apologizing for existing. The night she called me crying, I knew something had shattered beyond repair. She showed up at my apartment with bruises she tried to hide under long sleeves. Not all of them were physical. Some were invisible, carved into her confidence, her sense of worth. She kept saying it was her fault, that she should have been more understanding, more patient, less emotional. It broke something inside me to hear her blame herself. I helped her leave him. I drove her to her sister's house. I sat with her through panic attacks. I stayed on the phone when nightmares woke her up at 3 a.m. I told her she was not broken, not weak, not stupid for loving someone who didn't deserve her. And slowly, painfully, she began to heal. But trauma is a strange thing. It doesn't just disappear because someone tells you that you're safe. It lingers in the corners of your mind, waiting for quiet moments to whisper old lies. A year later, she left the city. She said she needed a fresh start, a place where no one knew her story. I wanted to ask her to stay. I wanted to tell her that my arms were open. Not just as a friend, but as someone who loved her more than he had ever loved anyone. But fear won. I told myself she needed freedom more than she needed me. So I let her go. We drifted into occasional messages, birthday calls, polite updates about careers and new apartments. She moved to another state, started working at a small design firm, and for a while, she sounded lighter. I convinced myself she was happy. Then the messages stopped. Months passed. I told myself she was busy. I told myself she had finally built the life she deserved. But something in my chest wouldn't settle. One night, unable to sleep, I searched her name online and found a local news article. There had been an accident. A drunk driver. A late evening. A collision that left her in critical condition. The world blurred. I don't remember packing. I don't remember booking the flight. I only remember the hospital hallway, the smell of rain on the pavement outside, and the fear that I had already lost her. She survived. Barely. Multiple fractures. Internal injuries. Months of rehabilitation ahead. When she first saw me standing by her hospital bed, she looked surprised, as if she hadn't expected anyone to come. "You didn't have to," she murmured weakly. "But I did." Her recovery was brutal. She had to relearn how to walk without assistance. She had to endure surgeries that left fresh scars across skin that already carried too many. But the hardest battle wasn't physical. It was emotional. The accident had reopened every old wound. She felt cursed, unworthy of peace. She kept saying that maybe some people were just meant to endure pain. That maybe happiness wasn't designed for her. I stayed. I read to her when the nights were long. I argued with her when she tried to skip therapy sessions. I reminded her that surviving wasn't the same as living, and that she deserved both. But one evening, after a particularly painful physiotherapy session, she broke down completely. She sat in the hospital corridor, staring at her reflection in the darkened window, tears falling silently. She said she was tired of being strong. Tired of fighting. Tired of pretending she wasn't afraid. And then she turned to me with that fragile look in her eyes and asked the question that shattered every wall I had built around my heart. "Can you give me a hug?" It wasn't just about physical comfort. It was about permission to fall apart. Permission to not be brave for once. When I wrapped my arms around her, she collapsed into me as if she had been holding her breath for years. I felt her sob against my chest, felt the weight of everything she had survived. And I whispered the truth I should have told her long ago, that my arms had always been open for her, not out of obligation, not out of pity, but out of love. That night changed something between us. Healing stopped being a solitary journey. It became shared. She started letting me see her vulnerability without apologizing for it. She started talking about her fears instead of hiding them. And slowly, she began to believe that maybe she wasn't cursed, maybe she was simply human. Months passed. She moved into a small apartment near my place so she could continue outpatient therapy. We cooked simple meals together. We took slow walks in the park as she rebuilt her strength. Sometimes she would stumble, and I would catch her. Sometimes I would doubt myself, and she would remind me that staying had been the bravest thing I'd ever done. One evening, as the sun painted the sky in soft orange and pink, she told me she had been afraid to ask for that hug. Afraid I would see her as weak. Afraid I would finally get tired of her broken pieces. That was when I realized something profound. We often think love is about grand gestures, dramatic confessions, life-altering sacrifices. But sometimes, love is simply the courage to say, "I need you," and the grace to respond, "I'm here." She wasn't the only one who had healed. Loving her taught me that people don't always leave. That staying is possible. That vulnerability is not a weakness but a bridge. A year after the accident, she stood on her own 2 feet at a small exhibition where her architectural designs were being showcased. She wore a simple blue dress, her scars hidden but not erased. When her name was announced, she looked at me in the crowd, and I saw the old spark in her eyes. Not untouched by pain, but strengthened by it. Later that night, under a sky full of quiet stars, she reached for my hand. She didn't ask for a hug this time. She simply stepped into my arms as if they were home. If this story is touching your heart right now, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who needs reassurance, and subscribe for more stories about hope and healing. And before we reach the end, I have one small request. Comment the word open if you believe your heart still has space for forgiveness, for love, for second chances. Because here's what I learned. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is ask for comfort. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can offer isn't advice, or solutions, or promises of forever. Sometimes it's simply your arms. Alina once thought she was too damaged to be loved. I once thought loving someone meant preparing for them to leave. We were both wrong. Love isn't about finding someone unbroken. It's about choosing to hold each other through the cracks. It's about staying when it's easier to walk away. It's about whispering, in hospital corridors and quiet kitchens and under starlit skies, that no matter how heavy the world feels, you don't have to carry it alone. She asked for a hug on a rainy night because she was tired of being strong. And I answered because my arms had always been open for her. If this story moved you, if it reminded you of someone you need to forgive or someone you need to hold a little tighter, please engage with this video. Your support helps keep stories like this alive. And never forget, sometimes, healing begins with 2 simple words. I'm here.